to Community Storytelling. I'm Lisa Chrysler, and if there's one person in Los Gatos who has some community stories to tell, it is this man sitting right next to me. You know him. I almost want to call him Mr. Los Gatos, but maybe somebody else has already taken that name. Joe Pirzynski. Former mayor, former everything, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So exciting to be sitting next to you.
That's great to be here, too.
And former everything, because you are technically retired now, are you not?
I am, yes.
And I say technically because you're probably as busy as ever.
Well, it seems that way. Yeah, I'm on 4 boards of directors, nonprofit boards, including, I think I should announce this.
Please do.
I'm the president of the board of KCAT.
Nothing wrong with that.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So thank you for having me.
No problem.
Because I am having the time of my life.
Well, that's great, Lisa. That's really good.
So I guess I should thank the president of the board.
You should.
Yeah.
Yes.
What other boards are you on?
I'm on the Uplift Family Services, a.k.a. Eastfield Ming-Kwong Family
Wonderful.
First.
Yes.
And they're very familiar to the town because we have Butter Paddle and,
Yes.
And Happy Dragon, and also the children's home up on Loma Alta.
Wow.
Ming-Kwong. And it's great. That's
So you
great.
obviously have your heart with children.
I do. I spend a lot of time with kids in my professional life, and you know, it's as good as it gets. I just got to say that. I spent 40 years in secondary education. I mean, not as a student, but as
Well, you do look a little young. I wasn't quite sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
40 years. Go ahead and say where, because it's a fabulous school.
It was at Archbishop Mitty High School in San Jose, and I started as an English teacher, and 40 years later, I retired as a vice principal, and in that period of time, loved, well, not every minute. Chaperoning dances, not so much. But as far as the teaching goes, working with adolescents is really good.
So did you have the ruler when you chaperone those dancers to make sure the Catholic kids are 12 inches apart?
No, that's mythology from ancient history. No, we didn't have that, but we were observant.
You were very, my daughters went to Presentation High School.
Go.
Very observant during those dances.
Yeah. That's a job.
So you said your professional life. So what do you consider Los Gatos? How many years were you on town council?
I was 4 terms, 16 years.
That's a lot of years.
That's a lot of years.
Is that a record?
It is actually ties for the record.
With Joanne Benjamin?
That's correct.
2 fabulous people.
That's absolutely right. 2 fabulous people.
And you were mayor how many times?
3 times. 3 terms as mayor.
Now, is that a record?
No, I think actually Joanne had 4 terms.
She beat you to that one.
Well,
huh?
you know, I cut it down about I wanted to give something to her. She's a friend. You know.
So, I mean, how do you, town council? I mean, you live and you breathe Los Gatos.
Well, yes. You have to love it. You have to love this town. It's a very complicated kind of mix because we've got people who are dedicated to maintenance of small town, but we also have to make sure we provide economic development, and property rights still exist in this country. So it's a matter of negotiating and arbitration and ultimately coming up with the right decision. And everybody doesn't get what they want at all times, but I think if you look at our history, we've been in pretty good shape for an awful long period of time.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
Look at the town today. When did you move here?
1974.
Right. So what was the population? Do you remember?
Yeah, in 1974, the population was, I think, about 26,000, something like that.
What is it roughly now?
It's about 29.5, something like that. Hard to believe, huh?
That is amazing. I thought you were going to tell me something in the 30s.
No.
It hasn't grown that much then,
it hasn't.
people-wise.
That's the amazing thing. It grew between 1960 and 1970. It was about 9,000 in 1960 at the beginning of that decade. By the time we got to the end of that decade, it was up in the mid-20s.
Do you have even any more room to grow?
Well, in terms of growth, there's only one basic place that we can grow.
And what might that place be called?
You may have heard of it. It's called the North 40.
Funny, I just heard about it today.
Did you really?
From somebody who said we'll probably have to move from there in a little while. We won't go into that.
Yeah, but I'm sorry about that. You know, life goes on.
Life goes on. My famous last words.
Yeah. So That's the last piece
That's
of real
it.
estate that's available to us.
Isn't
Yes.
that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
So I, for a time, lived in Morgan Hill,
Mm-hmm.
which has grown quite a bit since when I lived there. And it seemed like there wasn't much room. There's plenty of room because they are growing by leaps and bounds.
I know
it
they are.
seems
Yeah.
with housing, so much new housing, and you don't have the room here. You really don't.
Yeah.
Nor do you have room for the cars.
Funny you should mention
Another
that.
sore
Yeah.
subject.
We are the pinch point right here at Los Gatos as we look at our neighbors to the south who come over the hill every day to go up to Palo Alto, Mountain View, Sunnyvale for the tech jobs, and then go home every night. And that has grown exponentially. The stats are, I'm going to give some rough stats, but in 2008, at about the beginning of the downturn, it was about 18,000 vehicle trips every day, over and back.
Yeah.
By 2014, it jumped to about, I'm just going to say 28,000. And now it's probably closer, just in the last few years, to almost 40,000.
I was going to guess about 38, 39,000.
Yeah. And it is the product of being at the hottest economy in the world, right here in our valley, and us being the only way in and out if you're coming from Santa Cruz County.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's also people from the South Valley who come from Morgan Hill and Gilroy. And when they're up coming to the same location that all our Santa Cruz folks are coming to, they basically come through town. And when Highway 85 backs up, they jump into town to bypass the traffic to go up Highway 9 through downtown towards Mountain View and Sunnyvale.
So you've come up with a few steps. Have they been working?
It's a question, okay? The more we look at possible solutions, the less it becomes evident. The real issue is how do you keep people on Highway 17 rather than bailing off into town if they don't want to be in town. So the businesses downtown have suffered significantly
Yes.
in the last couple of summers.
Yes.
Because you've got, I think it's almost a 20% drop off during those summer months in retail and restaurant. And it's because you've got this, this gridlock
Yes.
that occurs when people are trying to get to Santa Cruz faster than they feel they can get on the freeway.
Right. And we're talking about going to Santa Cruz for fun. And you're talking about people in Los Gatos, this is their livelihood.
Correct. Yes.
And it's tough.
It
It's
is very tough.
It's very
and
sad.
it's tough on the neighborhoods because
Yes.
the neighborhoods get all this spin-off. So Waze, I don't want to, indicate Waze is the only electronic medium that's communicating how to get to Santa Cruz. But they're telling people as the freeway gets more and more slowed to get off at Lark, to go through town. But at every juncture, there's a new blockade that takes place with this gridlock, and so eventually you have people in the neighborhoods who can't move anywhere.
They can't even leave their
That's
homes.
Right. That's
Yes.
right. So we're working on that. I had a meeting this morning at Jim Bell's office.
Now,
to
how are
see
you?
where that-
You're not on the town council anymore.
No.
Well, how are you still working on all these things?
People call me.
Yes.
Okay.
You gave your phone number out too many times.
I think I did. Yeah, but I love it.
Yes.
I love it, and the opportunities that I have as a member of these various boards of directors, and also with the experience I've had on town council, and I think the trust that we built up within the community, people do give me a call and say, okay, you need to tell me, how can I get this thing
See,
accomplished?
that's why I want to call you Mr. Los Gatos.
Okay, thank you.
So tell me, so we've been talking about some of the not so nice things. You probably will be here till the day you die, right?
Absolutely.
You love Los
Absolutely.
Gatos. Three things that you love so much about Los Gatos.
First of all, it's a real community.
You bet it is.
Okay, I mean, we've been here since '74, which as I do the math, I think that's about 39 years. And in the course of that time, we've built up some great friends. Our traveling companions are all local Los Gatos friends.
Yes.
And we have been able to, in the course of this time, without question, experience something that very few people are able to experience. Now, when you look at our downtown, and the interface of the residential neighborhoods, the historic residential neighborhoods, and the historic downtown business sector, they really do integrate very, very nicely, but they continue to evolve. And what I'm aware of, by having had the experience on council and having known some of the previous council members and mayors, is that it's something that's going to continue to evolve, and we've done a really good job of preservation, and at the same time accepting the fact that change is inevitable. And so it's not a question of things being static and not changing. It's really more how you shape the change, because it's gonna be shaped.
So is that a number 2 thing? I lost count here. We have the number 1's community, number 2, the preservation?
Yeah.
The history of this town, maybe?
The history, preservation, the character of the town as is expressed in our residential and business communities.
And the number 3 would be?
Number 3, I think, would be the opportunity for people to volunteer to help out. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I can go through a list of different projects or structures that were built in the course of the time I was on council, and and I can tell you what I'm proud of there. But I think the thing that's significant is not the structure; it's the community that surrounds the structure. It's the way we interact with each other, and and it's contentious a lot of the time, because not everybody interprets what's going on in the same way. But it's a very vocal community. And my intention was that I didn't want to, when I left council after my term on council for those years, I didn't want to have to drive down the street and look at something I wasn't proud of. And that was kind of my orientation, is I don't want to do anything that is going to diminish the values that we have as a community. Now, some people would disagree with my, the products that somehow we delivered.
Well, you gave out your phone number once or twice. They can call you.
Yes, and they were always cordial. Okay.
Well, you're a gentleman.
Well,
they have to be cordial.
That's the cool thing about being in a small town. I think, we have a lot of conflict in government right now. Okay, but to me, the best place to be in a leadership role, in a governance role, is at local. Once you get beyond local,
that's
now
where it all begins.
You're writing paper.
And
that's really what it comes down to.
Really, the only place you have a voice.
That's correct.
It's really
I always
true.
prided myself if I got a phone call from someone, because they had my phone number, and it was, "Hey Joe, I got a pothole out in front of my house, and it's been here for a while, and can you do something about it?" And I would say, "I'll see what I can do." Hang up, pick up the phone, call the head of Parks Public Works. I'd say, in this case, Matt, I'd say, "Matt, there's an address, there's a pothole. This guy tells me that it's aggravating, and is there anything we can do?" And he says, "Let me see what I can do." By the time we get through the day, I'll get a phone call from that same resident saying, "Hey, how'd you do that?"
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the role that you have in local government that you don't have in many other levels of government. So when people would say to me, "So where are you going next? What's the next level of government you're going to? When are you going to higher government?" I said, "I'm already at the highest government. Why would I want to step down from that?" Because I really do believe that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I found out something about you.
Yeah.
Not your phone number, but I'll get that before we're done. I have heard that you maybe really wanted to be a police officer, that you are really into having a scanner and listening, and not only listening to the scanner, but actually going to the scene. What's that about?
What's that about? Well, first of all, don't believe everything you hear.
Well,
okay?
I might be right on this one.
Yeah, when I was first in town, 1974, loved the town, and appreciated the ambiance, appreciated the social and the cultural life of the town. But I also felt it was a good town to kind of give back to. And one day in the Los Gatos Weekly Times, which tells you how long ago that was, there was a notice that police department's looking for folks who might want to volunteer to be part of a group that would act in supplemental role to the police department, since it's a small department and some things go on here that could get larger than life, and we need someone to back us up. And so as a meeting down in Town Hall, I was there. There were probably about 8 other people showed up. And 2 reserve officers gave us the introduction. And at the end of the introduction, we looked around and said, I guess we could do this.
Did they give you the scanners? You had to go buy one?
Oh, no. Nothing was given. Okay.
You had to go to Radio Shack and buy a scanner.
Exactly. But before we got the scanner, we organized the team. And I was elected president of the board.
Naturally.
I don't know how naturally that is, but president of the board that was going to create this group. And the result is, after a period of negotiating with the police department, we created the disaster aid response team.
Okay.
It was the Los Gatos police at that time. Montessorino had not come in yet as an agency that we were responsible for. But yeah, the DART team was created, and it was focused on volunteers coming in and bringing skills. And then
And your skill was what? To scare them away, or what was your skill?
management.
Management. Okay.
Yeah, right. Good question. But people came in and said, hey, I got a mountain bike. Can we create a mountain bike team? Sure. I'm a diver. How about a dive team? Everybody had to be trained medical. But
For
we had
what,
some,
Lake Vasona or something?
Actually, Lake Vasona,
Oh, in Lexington.
Lexington, the Perk Ponds. There were a
Sure,
number of
you're
things that we had to
right.
do. And others, we had an equestrian team. We had a ATV team. Whatever we wanted, we could create, so long as we didn't have to ask anybody for money. And we went out and got all of our own equipment. We got training from the fire department and the police department. And ultimately, we went out searching for vehicles. I think it was John Moore who gave us a Suburban. I think it was John Moore or Anderson Chevy, one of the, I don't know which. And we got a box van from the Mercury News, which we named the Merc.
Yeah.
Mobile Emergency Response and Command
There
Van.
you
How
go.
about that?
Yeah.
And then gave them a little press at the same time. But from that point until I went on council, I was commander of the team, and we did some really, really interesting things. When remember the Lexington fire?
Oh, yes.
Okay, big deal, right?
Very big deal.
We worked the command post down at Vasona for that week. We were escorting teams from all over California and out of state up to the fire scene. Because these guys were coming in from Redding or,
And that was
Bend,
when
Oregon.
we didn't get that many wildfires.
We
The
didn't.
original Lexington fire, that was like a wildfire in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
That's absolutely right.
I was at Moffett Field with the Naval Air Show.
Yeah.
And I remember we were reporting live there and looked up and said,
Hard to believe, huh?
I think that's
Yeah.
flames. And now, sadly, wildfires are so commonplace.
Yeah.
But back
Thank God.
then-
I mean, there were a large number of homes that were burned.
Yeah,
And
horrible.
fortunately, as far as I recall, few injuries, no fatalities.
Yeah.
But that was quite an experience. And then, of course, the Loma Prieta earthquake, which was, I think, the biggest event that we participated in. And I was at MIDI at the time in the vice principal's office when the earthquake occurred. The other vice principal and I were together. The whole place was shaking. We had kids who had to get off campus. And then I came right back into town and went to my home to see everything was okay. My neighbors were saying everything's okay. And we came down to the command post. And then we were on 12-hour duties for the entire team for the rest of that week until it was all secured. But interestingly, when the earthquake happened, we had 30 people, members of our team. By the time we got past that week, we had 60. Because people saw what we were doing, they wanted to join. And we did an awful lot of really interesting things during that week to support.
Right.
But we also, during the course of our time, we went after lost kids and seniors, did a pretty good job of finding what we were looking forward to.
So do you still listen to the scanner?
Yes.
So is it just because you love it, or is just, do you have it going 24/7 in the
I
background?
kind of see every once in a while I get to back up the cops.
Really?
Yeah.
So you just drive out there and you back up the cops?
Well,
Or you say put them up?
Backup is what I'm saying.
Put up your dukes.
No. I mean, I don't want to give away any secrets here, but I support this team, and I think one of the things that I was able to do in the course of the time that I was on council was to show that your government could really support you. It wasn't an adversarial relationship in any way, shape, or form. It was, we depend on these men and women to keep us safe. I want to help them be safe. And so, it always, if you got an extra set of eyes on something, and I'm, I don't get in the car and drive someplace, but if I'm on the road and I know something is going down, I will make efforts to monitor what's going on, and if I can call radio and say, hey, I think something's going on here, that the guys are not on scene yet, you may want to check out. And it's always been a great relationship. I run into these folks on the street all the time, and we have a very cordial relationship. They know me, I know them.
Have you ever put yourself into danger? I bet you have.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't recall. And obviously nothing happened. So
you look good.
Thank you.
So
No,
I mean,
I wouldn't do anything like that. It's like a citizen, any citizen, if he or she found themselves in a situation where there was some emergency going on, then I would expect everybody to be cognizant of what they're seeing and have the ability to inform either the individuals who are responding to, or in my case, the radio, to say, here's something you may want to pay attention to. And the response always is, thanks a lot.
I bet. So you could go on and
Yeah.
on and on. You have so many stories. You
I
are
do.
Mr. Los Gatos.
Thank you.
How many times have I said that? You got to start giving me, we got to make it official or something.
Yeah, I really, I think 4 times.
But so before we leave,
Mm-hmm.
you guys, 74, you've been here since 1974.
Right.
What, when you think about it today, it still makes you chuckle? Is there something about that you've either experienced or something you've been in the middle of, and you laugh then and you still laugh when you think about it?
We've had some characters that have come through town, and I'm not going to name names, but some people have just, by their unique characteristics, their personalities, their willingness to be cantankerous, their interpretation of reality. There are some people who I could name who in the course of my entire time in town I've run into, and usually it comes down to, there was one character in particular who was such an aggravation to me as mayor. I had to kick him out of council 4 times.
Really?
Okay? Yeah.
And was he a resident?
Yes.
Okay.
If I were to describe him, people would recognize him. But at a certain point in time, I said, he comes in, he does some strange things in council. I kick him out, he leaves, and then 3 weeks later, he's back, okay? Doing the same kinds of things. And so I called him up one day and I said, hey, let's get together. I'm really curious about why it is you can be such a jerk in front of council. And I think that there are some things that you actually talk about that are pretty good, but you diminish your impact by being a jerk. And so we did. We got together over at Starbucks on Blossom Hill Boulevard.
Did he buy or you bought?
I would not take any gifts from
Okay.
people, so a
Of
cup of
course.
coffee,
Yeah.
I would have to pay for it
Yeah.
myself, and I sure wasn't going to pay for him. So the idea that we met, and I told him, I said, hey, why is it that you keep doing this all the time? And this community came from prior. He had that same reputation. Okay, we know that because the city manager from that city, it's up the peninsula. Actually, it's on the East Bay. He called our town manager and said, "Hey, by the way, you have a new resident, and
Watch out.
I want you to hear something." And he held the microphone up, and there's music, people were laughing and that kind of thing. And he says, "Oh, we found out that he moved to your town. We declared a town holiday." That's a true story.
That's
okay?
great.
So in our conversation at Starbucks, I said, "So why do you do this?" And he says, "It's my shtick. It's what I do."
And did you say nobody likes your shtick?
And he says, "Hey, That's not my issue. This is just what I do, okay? And interestingly enough, we developed a pretty good relationship.
I was
after
going to
that.
say you're probably friends
We
now.
got together for coffee. He passed away now.
I'm
okay?
sorry.
But we get together for coffee every once in a while. He'd tell me some things that he really thought needed to happen. I took those at face value, and actually he was right a lot. But what he said in front of council and what he said over coffee, two different things. Yeah, really.
You were a delight.
Thank you.
know, I've been to events with you, but I've never really had a sit down with you, and it's been wonderful.
We did a library together, didn't we, once upon a time?
We did.
Was that awesome?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing
yeah.
like libraries, especially the Los Gatos
Well,
Library.
we're so proud of this library.
Yes, it's a wonderful library.
It is a very cool
Wonderful.
library.
Well, it's been wonderful.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
And I gave you a new title if you didn't already have it.
I'll have to go and put that on my website.
Okay, number 5, Mr. Los Gatos. There he is. Joe Pirzynski, you probably already knew him, but I'm hoping you didn't know everything he shared with you today. That's what community storytelling is all about. And if you've got a great story, or you know somebody who could sit next to me and just get us going, please go to kcat.org and nominate them. The board of directors would appreciate it as well, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I certainly appreciate doing this. I love it. I love being able to talk with you and share stories. So let's do it again. Thank you for being with us today. Community storytelling here at KCAT TV 15.